Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod Science classes. Today in this lecture, we are going to discuss current affairs of 20th November 2021. In this lecture, we are going to discuss 6 topics which are very much relevant to our UPSC. So let's get started with our discussion and let us try to see which are the topics that we are going to discuss in this lecture. So first topic is about government relents decides to spike farm laws. Okay, so government already came up with these 3 farm laws. They are controversial, and because of these controversial laws, so throughout the country there was a protest that is happening. So now finally government came up with a decision made to revoke those farm laws. So this article will be important from our polity point of view, which mainly comes in the GS paper too. And from tomorrow onwards, we are going to get many editorials regarding this topic. So we are going to discuss that in detail. So as of now, we are going to see what is written in this article, that's it. And next one is post NEP, that is National Education Policy, or these are all set to teach in tribal languages. So already you know that in this NEP, National Education Policy, it is also focusing to teach in mother tongue. So that will be helpful for understanding concept very easily. And not only in India, but in many countries they are following this thing, like teaching in their regional languages rather than English. Okay, and even recently one important development that we saw here is there is some technical educations like engineering that also be taught in this regional languages. This topic is important from our education point of view, which mainly comes under our GS paper too, and this topic is very important from your mains. And next topic is about Bihar UP police seen as less sensitive according to survey. So according to survey, it mainly says that Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, they are having effective police, and least effective police that is seen in states like Bihar, UP and Chhattisgarh. So this topic will be important from our governance point of view. And you all know this police, they are important for maintaining of law and order, right? And next one is indigenous chopper drones handed over to armed forces. So this is important from our defense, which mainly comes under our GS paper 2, GS paper 3. And next one it is about POXO Act. So in yesterday's lecture we studied a first article which is given in our Hindu newspaper regarding Supreme Court verdict. And now this article which gave some important analysis. Okay, that today's topic which mainly appeared in page number 6, that is in editorial page. So we are going to see that. Okay, and next topic is about the story of an arrest and resolution. Okay, so it is about SBI. Okay, SBI Bank. So we are going to talk about some important things that are from our banking reforms. So that is very important from our economy, which mainly comes in the GS paper 3. So let's get started with our discussion and let us try to see first topic. So if you see title, it mainly says that government relents decides to spike farm laws. So if you see this infographic, it is mainly talking about timeline. So in September 2020, our government of India came up with these 3 farm laws. Okay, so you can see this infographic, then you can get much information. And if you're talking about context, why it is in news, because our Prime Minister announced that to repeal these 3 contentious farm laws. Okay, to mainly repeal these 3 contentious farm laws. Mainly it will helpful for assuring farmer groups protesting against them for past year, and that is the legislative process for withdrawal would be completed in the coming winter session. So here these 3 formulas are mainly passed in September 2020. So after passing of these laws throughout the country, there is a protest, farmer protest is happening. So because of this farmer protest, recently that also led to this Lakampur incident, and that led to killing of so and so people. Okay, so now finally central government announced that they are going to repeal this contentious farm laws, and this removal of this laws will be done in winter session, in our winter session of parliament. So here you need to refer about which are the sessions. We are having 3 sessions, that is BMW, budget session, monsoon session, and winter session. So it is mainly talking about this winter session. So already we discussed about this different types of sessions number of times in our earlier lectures. So please refer once. And if you're talking about details, it mainly says that in a television broadcast to the nation, Mr. Modi ji also announced, Mr. Modi ji also announced the formation of a committee with representatives from both the central and as well as state governments to look into these issues regarding the agriculture. So regarding the agriculture, there are many problems will be faced by farmers. So we can divide those problems that are faced by farmers in three types, like pre-harvest, pre-harvest challenges, harvest challenge, and post-harvesting challenges. So pre-harvest means before harvesting, before going for sowing of seeds, what are the problems which are faced by farmers? They do not get a proper seeds, or there will be no proper availability of fertilizer, and they need to use some technology. There is lack of technology for tilling and sowing of seeds, etc. So these are some pre-harvesting. And during the harvest, and whenever the harvest, which is mainly it is going to come to the hands of farmers, means if there is any undesirable weather events, like we can say unexpected rainfall or unexpected droughts, or there is lack of water and lack of pesticides, so all these will comes under during harvest. And post harvest also, here farmers, they will be facing many problems, like for example, after getting into harvest, and if they are taking that harvest from the place of production, that is from the farm to their APMC mandis or the marketplace, then what happened, they might be not having proper transportation, and during the transport also, and even if they are taking this produce to mandis also, unexpected rainfall, that will leads to loss of this farm produce. And even in this mandis, there will be middlemen. So because of this middleman, they will be getting some commissions. So in this way here, they will be not getting favorable price. So these all will be some important challenges. So because of this huge amount of challenges in this agriculture, and as you all know that agriculture is one of the primary sector, right? Primary sector of our economy. So most of the people, they mainly depend upon this farming or agriculture, and most of the people, they do not have their own lands. They will be working as a tenants. Okay. So what happened in this television broadcast, our Prime Minister also announced that formation of committee, and this committee will contain representatives from both central level and as well as state level. Okay, they will mainly look after the what are the problems or issues which are present regarding this agriculture. And second important thing here is government's intention in bringing in these laws. It was to provide alternative to small farmers. Okay, mainly to provide alternative to small farmers who constituted 80% of farmers in our country. Okay, so these farmers mainly contains 80%. Okay, and they do not have proper access to markets. So because of this, they do not have good prices. They do not get good prices of their crops. And here our Prime Minister also talked about zero budget farming. Okay, we can talk about zero budget farming and fertilizers, and as well as change in the crop patterns, transparency in establishing this MSP, etc. So these are also going to talk by this committees. And if you're talking about some highlights regarding this Prime Minister announcement, he requested farmers who are protesting to return back to their homes. Okay, so farmers who are protesting against this laws, so they can go to home now. They have to return back to the homes. And the decision it is to repeal the farm laws was taken 1 year after farmers, they started protest against these 3 farm laws across the country. And these laws will be repealed in winter session. Okay, so these are some key highlights. And now let us try to see what are those 3 laws. Let us try to see the names, because already we had a detailed discussion regarding these laws in September 2020. So first law, it is Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Act 2020. First one is Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Act 2020. Next one is Essential Commodities Amendment Act 2020. And third one is Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Services Act 2020. So these are 3 important laws. And if you are talking about what are the concerns of farmers, why farmers are protesting, so mainly important reason behind that is MSP, minimum support price. So what is this MSP? MSP means the government will be announcing so and so price before sowing of seeds by the farmers, such that farmers will be having some trust, such that they will go for sowing of these crops, such that they will be getting some minimum price that will be provided by the government, right? So if you're talking about some main concerns of the farmers, they were, these laws will abolish MSP, minimum support price. These laws will abolish minimum support price, which is mainly guaranteed by center on select crops. Okay, so these laws, will abolish MSP. So this is the one important concern of farmers. So whenever there is no MSP, means whenever they are taking their produce to the market, they need to depend upon the mercy of big corporate houses. So because of this, farmers are mainly doing protest across the country. And next important point here is center's decision on the laws. So what is center decision? So why government came up with these three formulas? Because I can say like it is a privatization. So in earlier 1991 we came up with this LPG reforms, right? So in the same way, if these laws will be implemented, it is nothing but privatization of agriculture sector. We can say like that. So if you're talking about central decision of the laws, Prime Minister noted that majority of farmers, they are small scale farmers in India. And central government tool, it is a multifaceted approach which mainly ranging from seed technology to crop insurance schemes in order to help these farmers. So in order to help these farmers, here government came with these three laws, and these three laws put forward for the benefit of small farmers, and even they are focusing to empower and as well strengthening these farmers. And the government could not convince a section of protesting farmers in the light the law were repealed. Okay, so here Prime Minister said that yes, we came with this law to benefit people, but Prime Minister said that we are not able to convince the protesting farmers. So because of this, there is no choice, and we are going for repealation or revocation of this three important formulas. Okay, so this is gist of this topic. And now let us try to see next topic. It is about post NEP, that is National Education Policy. So post NEP, so in 2020 we came with this National Education Policy. So in this post NEP, Odisha all set to teach in tribal languages. Tribal languages will come under mother tongue for those tribal children, right? So this article will be very important from our education, which mainly comes under GS paper 2. So if you see context, it mainly says that the new education policy lays emphasis on imparting teaching on mother language in primary classes. So in primary classes, this national education policy, which is mainly said that we need to impart education children through their mother tongue, especially in this primary classes. So if you're talking about some important details, it mainly says that, but when language base of Odisha's Adivasi communities, they are very much diverse. So if you're talking about tribal people, most of the tribals are mainly seen in some important states. For example, Odisha. For example, we can say Karnataka, we can say Tamil Nadu, and we can say in northeastern region. So in these so and so states, we can say there is a large diverse of tribal areas. So one important point I can say here is, wherever the hills and as well as some hilly ranges are present, so there also we can see wide range of tribal population that is seen here. So in Odisha, it mainly says that there are about 21 spoken languages of these tribal communities. So it mainly even further divide into 74 dialects. So because of this wide range of diverse languages or mother tongue which is mainly spoken in this Odisha, so it became very very difficult. So because if you're talking about a so-and-so community, which mainly a small community, and the students from there will be like, for example, let us take 10 students, and from so-and-so community, which is a large community, so from there the community size is very large, so we can get 100 students. So here, whenever these children, they are coming and sitting in the same class, so which dialect we can go for? So this is one cause of concern and is one of the difficulty or challenge which the government is facing now. So however, Odisha's decade-long experience in multilingual education, which may come in handy to take up the challenge. So because of this decade-long Odisha's experiences in this multilingual language, so now because of this we can somewhat face this challenge. So if you see furthermore, so ST and SC, that is Scheduled Tribe and as well as Scheduled Caste Development Department of State Government, which has already started working on this project, and this project name is Samhati. So this Samhati is mainly focusing to address language issues which are mainly faced by tribal peoples in every grades or elementary class. Okay, so here you have to remember this. So you can get a question like, so Samhati is seen recently in news which is related to, address language problems which mainly faced by tribal students, okay, in primary classes. So you have to remember this for sure. And next one is as many as 3,328 teachers and 222 language teachers, they are in place to impart teaching in tribal languages. So to impart teaching in tribal languages, there are about 3,328 teachers and as well as 222 language teachers. So if you're talking about some more important reasons, so why we need to go for teaching in mother tongue. So now let us try to analyze the reasons. So if you see these reasons, then you can understand concept much more. So whenever you are studying any article in newspaper, you have to relate them with the different dimensions. So yes, why? So if you see this title, then you can easily understand that you need to focus on NEP, that is National Education Policy, and they are saying to teach in mother tongue. So here you need to understand what will be the reasons, right? So what will be the challenge when we are going for teaching in, whether this type of teaching it is practiced only in India or in other countries, that is we can also see at international level. So in this way, the study of any article, or if you are reading any article, you should see in all these dimensions. Then you will be getting a broader perspective and you can write your answer in a multi-dimensional manner. Rather than reading whatever which is present in this article, it is not at all helpful. We need to think out of box. I want to teach you how to think out of box, and this will be very helpful to clear your mains and even in your interview as well. Okay, so please trust me. That's it. I am saying only please trust me, such that I will teach you how to relate topics in to understand or to correlate with these different dimensions. So if you're talking about reasons why we need to teach children in their mother tongue, because it will enhance formative learning of children. It will enhance formative learning. So it has been observed that human mind is more receptive to communication in the language. So even though if you are making your child to sit in English medium, but your child who is not familiar with English medium or Urdu medium, then what happens, whether whatever the teachers they are saying, whether your child will be understanding? No, correct? So even though they are understanding, but they cannot implement in their day-to-day life. For example, if teacher who is teaching about traffic, okay, traffic signals, there will be red color, green color, orange color, etc. So if based on these colors, maybe children may understand that this is red color, this is orange color, this is green color. But why we need these traffic signals? So whatever the teacher which is explaining that may not be understood by children. So especially this is the problem that will be faced by primary classes. So we need to enhance formative learning, and even whenever the school children they have started going to school, so whenever they are having this primary education, so this will become a basic, this will be like a basement or a foundational block. So if the students foundation is strong, means they can build easily big buildings on that foundations. So if foundation is not correct, if basement is not correct, means how can we go for laying of 3-story building or 4-story building? We can't, right? So in the same way, so if we are trying to impart, if we are imparting this foundational learning or formative learning, then we can easily enhance the quality of education in the children. Okay, so we need to enhance formative learning, and it has been observed that human mind is more receptive to communication in the language in which it is accustomed to thinking from childhood. So in the childhood, whichever the language are suitable, okay, so in that language whenever we are going for teaching, then they can be understanding very much well, and they can be performing very much well, and they can understand the importance of education. And this one is practiced by many countries. Across the globe, classroom teaching is pursued in variety of regional languages. For example, in France, Germany, Russia, and even in China, they will go for teaching in their local or regional languages. And this one is it creates inclusion. It will helpful for social inclusiveness. It will improve literacy rates. And it will be reduce the poverty and as well as international cooperation. Okay, so in this way, we are having a wide range of advantages when we are going for this regional language. Okay, teaching in regional language. And now let us try to talk about what are the constitutional provisions which are mainly present in our Indian constitution which safeguards regional languages. This part is also very important because I will be giving you one example. So if you are writing polity related answers in introduction especially, you need to start with articles. Then examiner will know that yes, this candidate who is having good knowledge in articles and as well as different provisions in our constitution. So as you all know, the civil servants, if you are talking about civil servants, they should not follow values or they should not follow morals. They should follow ethics, and this ethics is to be according to our constitution. So this is a one important good quality for a UPSC candidate should be there. So if you are thorough with this constitutional provisions, then examiner also understand that yes, so and so person who have knowledge in our constitution and this person is suitable for this civil services. So in this way you can impart a positive opinion regarding you in this examiner through your answers. So constitutional provisions is very important. So because of this I already came up or I compiled all these articles which are regarding regional languages in our constitution at one place. So if you want, you can make a note in a separate data work, right? So first one is Article 29. Article 29 of Indian Constitution, which mainly talks about protection of interest of minorities, gives all citizens right to conserve their language and prohibits the discrimination based on language. Okay, so Article 29, which mainly talks about protection of interest of minorities. Okay, it is mainly focusing on to conserve their language and also prohibits discrimination on the basis of language. And this one is Article 120. Article 120 mainly talks about language to be used in the parliament. So here Article 120 mainly talks about language that can be used in the parliament. It mainly provides for the use of Hindi or English, or sometimes if parliamentarian, that is member of parliament, who want to express themselves in their mother tongue, it can also be allowed. Okay, and the next one is Part 17 of our Indian Constitution, which mainly talks about official languages, okay, in Articles 343 to 351. And this one is Article 358, which mainly talks about mother tongue, right? So it is mainly talking about instructions, facilities for instruction in mother tongue at primary stage. And Article 350B, which also talks about special officer for linguistic minorities. And Article 351, which mainly talks about directive for development of Hindi language. And this one is 8th schedule, which mainly talks about official languages. There are about 22 languages: Assamese, Bengali, Gujarati, Hindi, Kannada, Kashmiri, Konkani, Malayalam, Manipuri, Marathi, Nepali, Oriya, Punjabi, Sanskrit, Sindhi, Tamil, Telugu, Urdu, Bodo, Santali, Maithili and Dogri. So these are 22 languages in this 8th schedule of our Indian Constitution. And even we came with this RTE, Right to Act of 2009, which mainly says that the medium of instruction shall as far as practicable be in a child mother tongue. So in the child mother tongue we need to go for imparting of knowledge. So this is the gist of this topic, and now let us try to see next topic. Title says Bihar UP police seen as less sensitive according to survey. So according to survey which mainly done by Indian Police Foundation, so this survey report mainly says that Bihar and UP police, they are seen very less sensitive. Okay, so this article will be important from our governance point of view, which mainly comes under our GS paper 2. And now let us try to talk about this topic in a very great detail. So if you are talking about context, it mainly says that the Bihar and UP police mainly scored the lowest among the states when it comes to the perception of sensitivity. So if we're talking about the perception of sensitivity, so Bihar and UP police, they were the lowest, and highest is AP and as well as Telangana police. So if you're talking about details, it mainly says that based on the philosophy underlying the Prime Minister's smart policing idea. So behind this smart policing idea of our Prime Minister vision, so IPF, Indian Police Foundation, which mainly conducted a survey, and this survey, which is mainly based on perspective of trust in the police, so people's perspective of trust in the police. So if you see here some important details which mainly say that the smart scores, that is from score here is 1 to 10, and they are indicative of levels of citizen satisfaction. So based on this scores, we are mainly saying whether satisfaction of people is not there or there. So a score of 10 means it is the highest score, which mainly says that higher level of satisfaction. So if it is less means 1 or 2 means it is very less. There is no trust of people on this police. So with a perception of the score of 5.74 in Bihar, which mainly ranked lowest, and UP is 5.81, and also followed by Chhattisgarh, that is 5.93, and score which is high in the states of AP and as well as Telangana, AP with 8.11% and Telangana with 8.10%. So the police responsiveness, in this police responsiveness, it mainly says that Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Uttar Pradesh, they scored very much lowest, and Telangana, Andhra Pradesh and Assam, they scored highest score. So these are some important things that you need to remember. And now let's try to talk about some facts regarding what is this smart police. So this will be very important from your mains and as well as prelims. So if you're talking about smart police, the concept mainly introduced by Prime Minister during 49th annual conference. During this 49th annual conference, so this concept mainly introduced by Prime Minister. So the term smart, which mainly stands for S for sensitive and strict, and M for modern and mobility, and A for alert and accountable, R for reliable and responsive, and T for trained and as well as technological aid. So this is about the smart. So if you're talking about especially some important features of the smart, they include, the first one is the basic amenities for visitors and visiting area, toilets, drinking water, receptionist, etc. They will be provided. And apart from this, restroom for especially constables, restroom for constables, and as well as they also include some separate room for women constables, and there is a need of natural lighting and ventilation, and also focused on solar lighting, and even safety features or saving features, energy saving features that will be present. And they will also having this CCTV and safe and secure armory, and they will be having separate record room and even communication room for wireless and as well as computers, etc. And these are some important things that mainly comes in this smart police. So this is just of this topic. I hope it is clear. Now let's try to see next topic. Title says indigenous chopper drones handed over to armed forces. So we're talking about context. So how this article can be important? So this article will be important from our defense, which mainly comes under GS paper 3. So now let us try to see context. So if you see context, it mainly says that admission for girls has started from this session in 33 Sainik schools. So in 33 Sainik schools, admissions for the girls have been started, and Rani Lakshmi Bai like daughters will emerge to take responsibility of defense, security and development of our country on their shoulders. So this is a thing which mainly said by our Prime Minister Ji. So if we're talking about details, it mainly says that he handed over indigenously built NCH, that is light combat helicopters, to Air Force, and also handed over 2 small drones. So 2 small drones are mainly built up by Indian startup to Army, and he also gave electronic warfare suits for Navy. Helicopters for Air Force and drones for Army. Next one is electric warfare suits for Navy. So for a long time, India has been conducted among the largest arms importers. As we all know that India, which is mainly importing large amount of defense. So recently we got this S-400 and Rafale, etc. So here India is a large importer of this defense related equipment. So here, but today our Prime Minister said that the mantra of the country is Make in India, make for the world. Today it is mainly working to make it forces self-reliant. So because of these, all these things which are mainly indigenously produced, so because of this, whenever we are providing for our Air Force, Army and as well as Navy, it will be helpful mainly to decrease our imports. And decreasing imports means we can also save forex reserves, and as well as we can boost our domestic industries such that will leads to economic growth. And next important point is, he also said that after laying the foundation stone for a 400 rupees crore, okay, rupees 400 crore project by this Bharat Dynamics Limited for the manufacture of propulsion system or of air tank anti-tank guided missile, that is ATGM. Okay, he said that they are also laying a foundation stone for rupees 400 crore project by this Bharat Dynamics Limited for the manufacture of propulsion systems of this anti-tank guided missiles. So we are talking about furthermore, our Prime Minister also formally launched several schemes for this defense ministry, and also he unveiled stone signage of Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi on her 193rd birthday anniversary. So you have to refer some facts regarding this Jhansi, okay, Jhansi Rani Lakshmi Bai. Actually, November 19th, it's the birthday of three important ladies in our country. Okay, so please know about those people. Okay, so first one is Jhansi Rani Lakshmi Bai, and let me know about two other women whose birthday is on 19th November. Okay, so this is the 193rd birth anniversary of this Jhansi. Okay, so if you're talking about facts, it mainly says that two twin engine LCH, that is light combat helicopter, which mainly designed and developed by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, and it is about 5 to 8 ton class combat helicopter, and it is the only attack helicopter in the world that can land and also that can take off an altitude of 5,000 meters, that is 5 kilometers, with considerable weapons and as well as fuel load. Okay, so this is about this light combat helicopter, and this helicopter which eventually that will be employed along with the line of actual control with the China here. Okay, so along with this light combat helicopters, there are also include a AH-64E Apache helicopters as well. So Prime Minister handed over DRDO design, okay, DRDO designed and Bharat Electronics Limited manufactured advanced electric warfare suits for Navy. Okay, so this is about just. And now let us try to see next topic is about error corrected. So this article we are talking about is POSCO Act. So yesterday we discussed about some background, and now let us try to see this topic in a very great detail. So before that, I want to give you a background. So what happened? There are two cases which are regarding this POSCO. So first one is one accused mainly touched 12 years old girl's breast on cloths, okay, over the cloths, and here Bombay High Court said that it is not comes under this section 7 under this POSCO Act because there is no skin to skin contact. And another second case, what happened? So one accused mainly removed the zip of the pant of a girl. Okay, so this is also second case. So in these two cases, what happened? There is no skin to skin contact. So because of this, here section 7 under this POSCO Act is not invoked. So this is some background. So this judgment of this Bombay High Court, which mainly went to Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court mainly gave the final judgment, and it mainly quashed the judgment which is given by this Bombay High Court. So this article will be important regarding GS paper 2 under polity, and this topic will be very important from your especially mains, not from prelims. So prelims, you may get questions regarding this POSCO Act, some provisions that we already discussed in our yesterday's lecture. So we're talking about why it is in news. Already you know that Supreme Court has done well to correct the error of interpretation which mainly committed by this judge of Bombay High Court. Okay, So Judge of Bombay High Court said that there is no skin-to-skin contact, so it will be not comes under Section 7 of POCSO Act. So if you see some details of this judgment which is given by Supreme Court, which mainly says that the act of touching sexual parts of a body with sexual intent, it is not excluded under this Section 7. So we are mainly focusing on sexual intent, but not where he touched and how he touched and whether the skin to skin contact or not. And Section 7 mainly mandates that whoever with sexual intent touches vagina, penis, anus or breast of a child or makes child to touch vagina, penis, anus or breast of such person or any other person, that will comes under this sexual intent, and that will be punished under this Section 7 of this POCSO Act. And it also observes that the purpose of law, it is not to allow the offender to sneak out of the mesh of the law. Okay, so here whether it is a skin to skin contact is there or there is no skin to skin contact, whenever any person who is touching with sexual intent, that will comes under this POCSO Act. Okay, so if I talk about background, so this Supreme Court judgment which mainly kept aside two judgments. Okay, so in this judgment which is given by this Bombay High Court said that there is no sexual that there is no skin to skin contact. Okay, so because of this, here this judgment which is mainly quashed by Supreme Court. So High Court said that Section 7 of this POCSO, that is Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act, which mainly pertain to sexual assault on children, in such a way that it concluded that the acts for which accused were charged did not amount to sexual assault. So what are the two cases? Okay, as I said earlier regarding these two cases, they said that there is no sexual skin to skin contact, so it is not comes under this sexual assault. So in this context, Attorney General of India took this initiative to challenge these two verdicts. Okay, and finally Supreme Court gave this verdict, and Supreme Court said that whether if you are not seeing about sexual intent, so why we came up with this United Nations Convention on Rights of the Child. So this is the thing which mainly said by Supreme Court, and this is list of this topic. Now let us try to see next topic. Title says the story of an arrest, a resolution and retribution. So this article especially regarding this former chairman of SBI. So at that time, what the thing which mainly he did, so that led to retribution, and finally due to this retribution, so now he was arrested. So this article will be important regarding GS paper 3 under economy. So before that, I want to give you a basic idea regarding what is resolution. So for example, if I want to get a loan, so I have some property papers. For example, I have a land or I have my home, my house. Okay, so I keep the documents of land or house in a bank. So I am going to bank, and from this bank I am going to get a loan of, let us take 10 lakh rupees. So I got loan from the bank, from it is rupees 10 lakh rupees when I kept my collateral in bank. So what happened for some time, that is for 10 months I paid regularly, but what happened after 10 months, I can't pay this loan. Then what happened, that loan will enter into bad loan. Okay, so in this bad loan, this bank mainly wants to recover their money. Then what happened, they will approach this asset reconstruction companies or debt tribunal. So everything they will be contacting, and they will be selling my property, and what are the amount they are getting, they will be recovering those money. So this is called as the resolution. For resolution, we are having different acts like SURFACI Act is present, and we are having NCLAT, that is National Company Law Appellate Tribunal, and we are having DRT, Debt Recovery Tribunal. Okay, so these are the things that we are going to discuss now. So if you are talking about what happened, what is the context? So former State Bank of India, okay, former State Bank of India chairman, that is Chowdhury, was sent to 14 days of judicial custody. Okay, so mainly he was alleged in a fraud involving in the sale of hotel when company defaulted a loan. So when a company defaulted a loan, they went for restructuring or resolving or reclaiming of money here. So there, in that case, there was some alleged fraud. So because of that, former SBI chairman taken into judicial custody. So the group which ran which ran this luxury hotel, that is Gharwaida in Jaisalmer, they got loan of about 24 crore rupees and cash credit of rupees 1 crore from SBI in year 2007. So in year 2007 they got 24 crore rupees of loan, and it became non-performing asset in June 2010. Okay, so after 3 years we can say it became a non-performing asset. So the bank recalled the loan. On non-repayment, it need to approach this debt recovery tribunal, that is DRT, in 2013, and it mainly set for rupees 39.69 crore. Okay, and after that it also proceeded under this SARFAESI Act, the Securitization and Reconstruction of Financial Assets and Enforcement of Security Interest, that is SARFAESI Act. So this SARFAESI Act mainly stands for Securitization and Reconstruction of Financial Assets and Enforcement of Security Interest. Then what happened to secure the financial interest of the bank? Bank mainly signed a loan to this asset reconstruction company for 25 crore. Okay, so it came up with this contract with this asset reconstruction company for 25 crore, and here this asset reconstruction company pursued the matter in this DRT, debt recovery tribunal. Okay, that is debt recovery tribunal under the SARFAESI Act, and also approached NCLT, National Company Law Tribunal, which mainly comes under our IBC. Okay, and also had moved National Company Law Appellate Tribunals and Supreme Court idea before this NCLT. Okay, the matter which mainly that admitted in March 2017, and the directory tactics of promoters and including some handlers over company vehicles and as well as interim resolution professional that mainly delayed the process. And this delayed the process, this person mainly comes under influence of those so and so person, and he started getting some giving some advantage to those defaulters. So it is nothing but retribution. So if you're talking about this, DRT mainly said that yes, we are going to go for a resolution of this so and so property, and the bank report rupees 25 crores, okay, out of rupees 40 crore due. So it is recovering about 60% of recovering. It is a very, very excellent thing, because in normal way they will get only 30% or even less than 30%. So if we are talking about retribution, so what is the meaning of this retribution? Means when criminal offenders, they are believed to have gained an unfair advantage over others by breaking the law. So by breaking the law, whenever they are getting more advantage, that is called as repatriation. Okay, so the episode mainly betrays a lack of understanding of recovery process and its underlying principle. Okay, so this episode mainly betrays that there is a lack of understanding of recovery process and even understanding principle. So if you're talking about some highlights, it mainly says that, so if you're talking about relationship between bank and as well as banker, that should be like a pendulum. Okay, it should be like a pendulum, that is lenders and as well as borrowers. Okay, so lenders and borrowers relationship, that is like a pendulum. So at periodic intervals, the government and Reserve Bank of India have moved to strengthen the hands of lender as well as a borrower and vice versa. Okay, so during the period of time, so government came with a number of reforms, number of steps, mainly to increase, okay, mainly to strengthen the hands of lenders and as well as even the borrowers. Even yesterday's lecture we studied that there is decreasing of NPS, and now banks, they need to go for giving of loans for small and medium enterprises, such that will create employment in our economy. But unstable equilibrium was often restored with the system. Bankers and other gatekeepers mainly involved in conspiring, that means they will be coming up with some bad acts. So because of that, in 1962, after this, Palai Central Bank mainly failed to amend RBI Act, which mainly provide for de facto Credit Information Bureau. So later on in 1971, so a study group which mainly recommended for settling up of Credit Information Trust, and this system discontinued in 1995, and later on in 1993 we came with this Debt Recovery Tribunal. Okay, so this Debt Recovery Tribunal, which mainly introduced in 1993 after recommendations of this Narasimhan Committee of 1991. So about a decade we came with the SARFAESI Act. So these acts, they were intended mainly for speed up of recovery and even strengthening the hands of bankers. And but the system over the years, which became compromised in different ways. And this mainly included non-appointment of judges failed accusations, and as well as delayed payments, etc. And this one is Mr. Chowdhury arrest. In this early, it is one of the early symptom of attempts to hijack the system. And alert government and regulator, they should move fast to close the gaps in the different laws which are present in India. So this is just of this topic. Okay, I hope it is clear. So I want to make a small announcement. So we came up with this prelims test series of 2022. So this is going to be started from this Sunday, that is 21st November, and we are having 30 tests, which includes CSAT and as well as your static, that is GS. In GS we are having sectional test, we are having revision test, and as well as full length test. So this will be highly beneficial. So please try to join this course, and the details of this and schedule of this prelims test series is given in description box. You can download it and you can see that, and the cost is just 5,000 rupees. And apart from this, we also launched this mains answer writing practice course, and here we are focusing on our GS1, GS2, GS3 and GS4, and daily one question which is given based on the syllabus. You need to cover in that week, and you have to write answer and you have to send back. There will be evaluation and even one-to-one mentorship. And on Sunday there will be essay and as well as case study practice. And the cost of this course, it is 7,200 rupees. It is also highly beneficial. And apart from this, we also have complete foundational course. You can join that. And if you want to take individual course like so and so history, economy, geography, you can also take this separately. So details of all these courses which is given in description box. Please don't forget to join this course. This will be very helpful. So by this I am concluding today. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Please subscribe to Rathod's IAS and don't forget to like, share and comment my videos. Thank you so much.